You weren't born pretending. You didn't come into this world filtered. You came in real, raw, loud, honest. But slowly you learned. You learned that being you wasn't always safe. So you adjusted. You smiled when you didn't feel like smiling. You stayed quiet when your heart screamed. You gave people what they wanted, even if it wasn't what you had to give. This is how the persona is born. It's the mask you build to survive. Not out of manipulation, but out of fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being too much. Fear of being not enough. Carl Jung called the persona the mask we present to the world. But it goes deeper. It's not just a mask for others. It becomes a mask for yourself. You wear it for so long, you forget there's someone underneath. That someone is your true self. The part of you that's tired. That's hurting. That's wondering if anyone will ever love the real you, the unfiltered version. Let's get honest. Most of us were trained to abandon ourselves. We were rewarded for being good, for being agreeable, for staying small, and punished, directly or subtly, for being honest, emotional, messy, authentic. So we adapted. You become the strong one in your family, or the funny one to avoid tension, or the smart one to stay useful. But it's all performance. It's protection in disguise. It starts young. A child is told, don't cry, be brave, don't embarrass me, make me proud. And the child learns, my needs are inconvenient. My emotions are dangerous. My truth is too much. So the child becomes something else. They shapeshift. They smile through heartbreak. They achieve instead of rest. They seek approval instead of love. And by the time they're adults, they don't even know what they really want, because they've lived so long trying to be what everyone else needs. This is the prison of the persona. It doesn't just hide you. It disconnects you. You walk through life feeling hollow, not because you lack success, but because you've lost yourself. You perform friendship. You perform intimacy. You perform success. But it all feels flat, because it's not real, and deep down you know it. You might find yourself thinking, why do I feel exhausted all the time? Why do I feel alone even in a room full of people? Why do I feel like a fraud, even when I'm praised? This isn't depression. This isn't laziness. It's the soul screaming, come back. It's the self, buried under years of people-pleasing and self-betrayal, begging to be seen. But here's the painful truth. The longer you wear the mask, the heavier it becomes. What once protected you, now suffocates you. Because the persona, while useful, has a dark side. It tells you, don't be vulnerable, they'll leave. Don't slow down, you'll lose your worth. Don't say no, they won't love you. But the real tragedy? It also tells you this. Your real self isn't lovable. That's the lie. That's the root of the exhaustion. You're not tired because you're weak. You're tired because you've been performing. Because pretending is draining. Because hiding hurts. Because silence eats away at your soul. So what's the way out? It starts with awareness. You have to see the mask to remove it. You have to admit, I've been performing. I've been pretending. I've been trying to be who they want. And that's okay. That's not shameful. It's human. You were trying to survive, to feel safe, to be loved. But now, it's time to evolve. You don't have to destroy the persona. You just don't have to live inside it. You can be both strong and soft, capable and tired, loved and imperfect. You can start to reclaim your real self, the one underneath the mask, the one that laughs weird, the one that gets angry sometimes, the one that cries when no one's watching. That self is worthy. not because of what it does, but because of who it is. And once you begin to connect with it, even a little, you'll feel the difference. Peace, relief, energy that comes not from being on, but from being true. You didn't come here to play a role. You came here to be real. And it's not too late to start. You say you want peace, but you keep chasing validation from friends, from partners, from strangers on the internet. You call it love. You call it connection. But really, it's survival. Is the nervous system screaming, "Am I safe? Do you like me? Will you stay?" Let's be honest. Most of us didn't grow up feeling fully seen. We were praised when we performed, ignored when we were honest, corrected when we were vulnerable. So we learned a painful pattern. Approval equals safety. Rejection equals danger. You internalized it without realizing. And now, every decision runs through this question. Will they still like me if I do this? You choose jobs to impress. You post online to be liked. You stay silent to avoid conflict. You shapeshift. Smile even when you're angry. Nod even when you disagree. Say yes when you're dying to say no. This is how the need for approval becomes a prison. You start living for applause, not alignment. And slowly you disappear. You laugh, but it's not your laugh. You speak, but it's not your voice. You show up, but not as you. Let me ask you something real. Who are you when no one's watching? That version of you. The one who doesn't filter. The one who doesn't shrink. The one who doesn't pretend. Do you even know them anymore? If not, you're not alone. So many people live like this. Like actors in a role they can't step out of. Like children still waiting to be told, "You're enough now. You can rest." But here's the secret. The more you chase approval, the further you drift from yourself. And the world doesn't need a more polished version of you. It needs a more honest one. It needs the version that cries when it hurts. That speaks truth even when it's scary. That sets boundaries even when it risks rejection. The cost of being liked by everyone, being known by no one, including yourself. You may win their love, but lose your voice. You may gain attention, but lose your freedom. That's the real heartbreak, not that people leave, but that you never showed them the real you in the first place. So you ask, how do I stop needing their approval? Start small. Notice the moments you shrink. Notice when you're about to lie to protect an image. Notice when you say yes to avoid discomfort. Then pause and ask, what would I do if I trusted that being real was enough? Even if it's scary, even if it feels like loss. Because the truth is, it is loss. You'll lose people, but only the ones who love the mask. And what you'll gain? Yourself. You'll start to feel rooted again, centered, clear. You'll stop performing, stop explaining, stop apologizing for existing. The need for approval doesn't go away overnight. But every time you choose truth over pleasing, you weaken the grip. You come back home to yourself. And in time, that self, the quiet, honest, messy one, becomes someone you actually like. Not because they're perfect, but because they're real. And being real is the most radical thing you can be in a world built on performance. You've worn the mask for so long. You started to believe it's your face. The confident one, the smart one, the funny one, the put-together one. But when you take it off, even for a moment, there's fear. Who am I without it? What if they don't like me? What if I don't like me? Let's slow this down. This mask, it didn't come from nowhere. It came from survival. Somewhere along the line, you learned that parts of you were too much or not enough. So you edited yourself. You hid your anger. You silenced your sadness. You dimmed your joy. You became who the world wanted you to be, because that felt safer. It felt like love. But now, you're exhausted, because every time you wear the mask, you disconnect from your real self. And that disconnect is where the anxiety lives. It's where the burnout hides, the numbness, the confusion. You're not just tired, you're tired of pretending. And the scariest part? You're so used to performing, you forgot how to be still, to be honest, to be enough, without effort. Let me tell you a story. A client once said to me, "I don't know how to rest unless I've earned it. I feel guilty just sitting down." That's not laziness. That's a mask talking. The mask that says, "I'm only valuable when I'm doing." So even your rest becomes a performance. You relax, but only after burning out. You take a break, but only when your body forces you to. You have fun, but it's curated, scheduled, performed. Real rest feels threatening, because it asks you to be still, to be with yourself. And what if you don't like what you find? This is the fear underneath the mask. Not just, will others reject me? But, will I reject myself? That's the real shadow, the part you haven't looked at. And here's where Jung comes in. The persona is not who you are, it's who you think you need to be. But your real self? It's underneath the noise. It's the part of you that still cries at movies, that laughs too loud, that gets scared before speaking the truth, that remembers what it was like to be free before life made you shrink. That part still exists. It's just been buried under layers of shoulds. Should be successful, should be liked, should be productive, should be fine. You're not fine. You're lost inside an identity that was built to survive, not to thrive. And the scariest thing isn't failure. It's this. What if I succeed at becoming someone I'm not? What if the world claps for the version of you that isn't even you? That's the prison. That's why so many high achievers feel empty. Why people with thousands of followers feel unseen. Why having it all can still feel like having nothing. Because the mask got all the love, and the real you was never invited to the table. So how do you start to unmask? Not by blowing up your life, not by running away, but by getting curious. Start with, when did I first learn I wasn't safe being myself? Then ask, what part of me have I been hiding to be accepted? Then choose, moment by moment, to bring that part back into the light. Not for everyone, but for you. Be honest when it's easier to lie. Be soft when it's easier to be cool. Be silent when it's easier to perform. It won't feel natural at first. It will feel like loss, like awkwardness, like being naked. But eventually, it will feel like coming home. Not to who you were taught to be, but to who you've always been, underneath it all. Authenticity is terrifying. Let's be honest, being real isn't comfortable. It's not polished. It's not always accepted. But it's the only way out. You've lived your life trying to be what they needed. The good kid, the perfect partner, the overachiever, the peacemaker. It worked. You were praised, rewarded, loved, conditionally. But now, you're not sure who you are without the script. You're emotionally starving. Because performance is applause-based. Authenticity is soul-based. One feeds the ego. The other feeds the heart. But here's the trap. You can't live from both. You can't be real and rehearsed. You can't chase approval and freedom. One always comes at the cost of the other. And deep down, you know which one you've been choosing. Let's get honest. Have you ever laughed when you wanted to cry? Said, "I'm fine" when you were falling apart? Played strong because someone needed you to be? That's performance. And it's soul deep exhausting. Not because you're fake, but because you've been conditioned to survive. To survive rejection. To survive disconnection. To survive the possibility of not being enough. You learned early that being fully seen was risky. So you hid. And you got good at it. But now, you're aching. Not for attention. Not for likes. Not for validation. You're aching to be real. You want to stop editing yourself. Stop filtering every emotion. Stop shape-shifting to stay safe. Because here's the truth. You don't want to be loved for your mask anymore. You want to be loved as you. And that starts with one terrifying choice. Stop performing. Stop pretending. Stop pleasing. Stop proving. Start telling the truth, even when it shakes your voice. Start saying no, even when they won't like it. Start being still, even when silence feels loud. Someone once said, if you avoid authenticity to keep people, you'll lose yourself to keep them happy. And that's exactly what's been happening. You're disappearing. Smile by smile. Yes by yes. Achievement by achievement. You're slowly becoming invisible to yourself. But here's the wild part. You were never meant to be everyone's version of enough. You were meant to be yours, even if it makes them uncomfortable. Even if it costs you connection. Even if it means standing alone for a while. Because the cost of hiding is greater than the risk of being seen. Authenticity doesn't guarantee love, but it guarantees alignment. And when you live in alignment, you don't beg for peace. You become it. You don't chase validation. You trust your voice. You don't fear being alone. You finally meet yourself. Let's be real. The world won't always reward your truth, but your soul will. You'll stop needing to be liked and start needing to be whole. You'll stop seeking permission and start setting boundaries. You'll stop performing for safety and start choosing freedom even when it's lonely. Because yes, authenticity can isolate you from the crowd, but performance isolates you from yourself. One of them leads to healing. The other keeps you stuck. The mask is familiar, but it's also a cage. It can't hold your joy, your mess, your depth. Only the real you can. So here's the invitation. Take the mask off. Let your voice tremble. Let your truth sting. Let your light confuse those still living in shadows. This is the turning point. No more apologizing for who you are. No more minimizing your truth to protect someone else's comfort. You're not here to be liked. You're here to live. Fully. Boldly. Unfiltered. That's what soul freedom looks like. Healing doesn't mean becoming someone new. It means remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. That version of you. The one before the masks. Before the pressure. Before the performance. That's who's waiting beneath the persona. But most people never go back. They stay stuck in the role. The responsible one. The achiever. The caretaker. It becomes identity. It becomes armor. It becomes prison. Why? Because letting go of the mask feels like death. And in a way it is. It's the death of pretending. The death of pleasing. The death of who you thought you had to be. But here's what people forget. What dies is false. What's real can never be lost. The real you isn't loud, but it's present. It's the quiet knowing in your chest. The part that says, I don't want to live like this. The part that cries when no one's watching. The part that remembers what it felt like to be free. That's the self you've abandoned to survive. But healing? Healing is going back for them. Let me give you a story. There's a girl named Maya. All her life she was told to be easy. Don't make trouble. Don't speak too loudly. Don't ask for too much. So she didn't. She became sweet. She became quiet. She became agreeable. And everyone loved her. But she didn't love herself. She woke up every morning tired. Not physically, emotionally. Because wearing a mask drains you. Smiling when you're sad. Agreeing when you disagree. Saying yes when your body screams no. Eventually, Maya hit a wall. She broke down during a conversation about dinner plans, not because of the dinner, but because she was starving for herself, for her voice, for her preferences, for her truth. That's when healing began, not in a dramatic moment, but in small decisions. Saying, I don't like that. Saying, that hurt me. Saying, I need space. And at first it felt like betrayal. Betraying the image she'd built. Betraying the expectations others had of her. Betraying the safety of being pleasing. But it was actually return. She wasn't betraying herself anymore. And that's the pivot. Healing feels like rebellion. But it's actually remembrance. You're not broken. You're buried. Under years of being what others needed. Under layers of performance. Under the weight of who you should be. But your truth is still alive. It's just quiet. It's just waiting. It's just scared. Because every time you were real, you were punished. But that was then. And this is now. You don't live in that old story anymore. You don't need to trade authenticity for acceptance. You don't have to keep betraying yourself to feel safe. You are allowed to outgrow your persona. Even if others still believe in it, you're allowed to disappoint people, to confuse them, to redefine what love looks like. Because healing isn't about being palatable. It's about being whole. And being whole means making room for all of you. Not just the polished parts, the angry you, the sad you, the tired you, the lost you. They all deserve space. They all deserve your care. You're not here to be an idea. You're here to be a person. So take off the costume. Speak your truth. Cry if you need to. Yell if you must. Be seen even when it's messy. Because that's where freedom lives. Not in being perfect, but in being real. You've worn the mask long enough. Now go meet yourself again. The version of you that was never too much. Never not enough. Never wrong for wanting more. They're still there. Still breathing beneath the surface. Still waiting for your permission. Let them come home. That's healing. You don't need to become someone else. You just need to return. Return to your center. To your body. To your truth. The persona will fight this. It will whisper, what if they leave? What if they laugh? What if they don't like the real you? But here's a better question. What if you spend your whole life being loved for who you're not? That's not love. That's performance. True belonging begins with authenticity. If you don't belong as yourself, then you don't belong, you're just tolerated. And you weren't born to be tolerated. You were born to take up space, to speak your truth, to feel your feelings, to follow your path. But here's the hard truth. Letting go of the persona won't feel good at first. You might lose people. You might feel alone. You might doubt every step. But what you gain is priceless. You gain your voice, your freedom, your energy, your clarity. You gain the ability to look in the mirror and say, that's me. Not who I was taught to be. Not who I was praised for being. Just me. And that's enough. The journey from persona to presence is not about rebellion. It's about reunion. Reuniting with the self you abandoned to be accepted. Reuniting with the dreams you buried to be responsible. Reuniting with the inner child you silenced to seem strong. Let me give you one more image. Imagine you're on a stage. The lights are on you. The crowd is clapping. You're performing the role perfectly. but inside you're empty. You want to stop. You want to step off, but you're scared. Now imagine, you walk off the stage. The applause fades. The spotlight goes dark. It's quiet, uncomfortable. But then you hear something else, your breath, your heartbeat, your intuition. You're not lost. You're home. You're not being seen by everyone, but you're being seen by yourself. And that is enough. That's what living authentically means. Not being fearless, not being loud, just being real. The persona will still try to come back. Old habits do. But now you'll notice, you'll pause, you'll choose. And that choice, moment by moment, is what sets you free. Not a grand transformation, but a million tiny acts of truth. Say what you mean, feel what you feel, love who you love, leave what drains you. Your presence is more powerful than your performance. So drop the mask. You were never here to impress the world. You were here to wake up. And now, you are.